Hey, what's going on? Thank you so much for watching. It would mean the world to us if you could just scroll down, like, hit the subscribe button for the Snaps YouTube channel. It goes a long way towards helping us out. Now, let's dive into some college football. Let's start with Ohio State, as they were the big winners over the weekend. Not only do they land Caleb Downs, more on what that means for Georgia and Ohio State coming up. I can't believe he didn't take less money to go play at Georgia. What the fuck's that about, right, guys? But yeah, Caleb Downs coming to Ohio State, and then Julian Sayin as well, the 5-star quarterback that transferred after freshman year, which got to make Ryan Day very happy. And in the end, there's some smoke out there that's saying that the Buckeyes spent $13 million assembling this roster for the 24-25 season. Now, some of you may hear that number and be tempted to do what our old producer Ryan Brumley did, which is create some sort of false equivalency bullshit to make it seem like that's not a big deal, right? Like, yeah, the Ravens put together $200 million for the roster. Well, yeah, that's the NFL, okay? And we're not used to that in college yet, and we don't have codified salary caps, and it still feels surprising and or interesting and the birthplace of a new market to see that Ohio State spent $13 million. I mean, remember, Ryan Day was out here, Aaron, a couple months ago saying it was like $7 million just to retain the roster?
Yeah, it was about last year, he said. Well, last year he kind of put a number around 10 to 12 of this is what it's going to cost year in and year out to have a championship roster is going to cost you around $10 million, yes.
And so he's been very upfront about this the entire time, and and look, there's again, guys, we want to overcomplicate these things, and as we'll talk, I want to get into player motivations on why guys leave and where they go, because in Proctor and Downs, I think you have two examples of guys doing different things, but at the end of the day, humans aren't that hard to understand. We tend to love money because it sets success and things that you want to do, and you could buy assets if you have money. Like I asked Aaron, he read a book on how to create wealth. I asked Aaron what the book said. It said buy assets. Okay, yeah,
Rich dad, poor dad.
Buy assets first, whatever. So the point of all of this is, why did Ohio State? Why do they have more retention than anybody else in the country when it came to their superstars not leaving? Why did they manage to get Quinshon Judkins out of an Ole Miss that seemed to have everything going for it? Why did they manage to get Caleb Downs? That's where he just became the first freshman ever to lead Alabama in tackles and was a freshman. Why? Because money. Because not to say hard work isn't there, right? Because yes, they recruit, they do everything else. But yeah, at the end of the day, they're all in. And why wouldn't they be? I think, do you agree with this? I think Ohio State has more pressure than any team in the country next year to win the Natty.
Well, and it's even more pressure now because there's significantly more money involved. And I think that always adds pressure to the equation of, hey, we're going to pay you X amount of dollars. Look at Jimbo Fisher. I mean, this class was assembled with an unknown amount of money, but it had to be a ton to put those number one classes together. So then more pressure comes on top of that. Like, hey, man, we're giving you the money. We're paying you X amount of dollars. We're assembling this roster with X amount of dollars. You have the facilities, go out there and dominate. He didn't. He gets let go, gets a nice buyout. He moves on. But yes, with more money adds the more pressure to that. And I think for Ryan Day, he's kind of understanding where this game's going right now, too, in the sense of look at the hire he just made as well. He brings in Bill O'Brien. He brings in a guy that he can essentially hand over the offense to and say, and I've been saying this all year, you have to be a CEO in today's game. The days of being an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator along with being a head coach is dead. You have to be a fundraiser. You have to be a recruiter. You got to be able to kiss ass. You got to be able to shake hands. You got to be able to go raise money. You have to do a million other things. You can't be a play caller. So he brings in Bill O'Brien. Now that responsibility is off his mind. And now he can just focus on how do I essentially go out there to the powers that be to raise enough capital to assemble this squad right now.
And look, to me, and granted, I'm not, I don't know the area of the country well. So somebody feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But to me, I see a lot of similarities in Ohio State that I do in LSU, in Georgia, in that really they're the only Power 5 show in town. Like, I know they've got enough of a population where Cincinnati obviously is good as well, and they are Power 5 technically now. But to me, this is like a Georgia Tech situation, right? Where you have a state that is super populous, a state that has super high talent per capita when it comes to football. And if you want to play for the hometown team, it's Ohio State. And more importantly, everybody that works in that economy, a lot of them going to be Ohio State fans, meaning the ability to fundraise like a Georgia is nearly it's a massive advantage over a lot of other states, a lot of other schools.
But you do bring up a sense of pressure, and I think it's a mixture of pressure, obviously, because you've lost to Michigan 3 straight years. You haven't been to the Big Ten championship, but there's also seeing what is returning. I mean, you look at a certain different schools. I mean, last year Michigan, and you talk about the retention aspect. I think if you can sell the message to last year Jim Harbaugh, hey guys, you return, we can win next year. You return with all these pieces that Michigan brought, from the quarterback to the running back to guys on defense. This could be our year. Bam, those guys forwent maybe some extra dollars. Forwent going to the NFL. They came back, won a national championship. There are certain moments where you have to hit it while it's good, and for Ohio State to see
they're
the potential, that everything's moving in the right direction. You're returning a lot of talent on the defense side of the football. One of the better defenses in the country a year ago. You return the majority of guys on that side of the football. You bring in Caleb Downs, which makes it any better. It just seems like everything is gearing towards Michigan may lose Harbaugh. Michigan loses their running back. Michigan loses their quarterback. Michigan's losing it. Like, next year is the I'm going all in year. Next year is the Michigan's down. May lose their head coach. We have all these guys back. Can we go squeeze just a little bit more dollars out of our boosters to go get the remaining pieces we need? An extra running back, a star safety, a quarterback that has potential to develop something better than what we had this past year. And Ryan Day was able to do that and sell the vision of just buy in this year. Let me win a championship. And then from there, hopefully that ball gets rolling back to Ohio State dominating the Big Ten.
Yeah, and so I mean, you talked a lot about what Michigan could potentially be using, and yes, but then also no more Saban. I mean, you're not going to whatever version of Alabama you have to work through will not be what it has been lately. I mean, I still think they're a playoff team or borderline. I think like a 10-2 type of feel, but obviously that's not. And then that doesn't even, that ignores the fact that you're getting rid of what we talked about so much going to the playoff, which is just the Saban factor, that on these biggest stages with time to prepare, Saban had a way of getting his teams ready that was nearly unparalleled. So yeah, like, it's an obvious read. If you're playing poker, this is where you push your chips to the center of the table. And this is basically the leadership and the money in Columbus saying, okay, Ryan Day, like, we gonna give you everything.
Yeah.
And if you can't get it done with all these resources, we're gonna have some real serious questions. Right. And we're gonna find someone who can, if that's not you. I want to talk.
I want to ask you this too. So we always talk about, or at least we talked about last week, of Kirby Smart more nationally, and you can maybe get Ryan Day into this conversation too, but at least on the level of the SEC, it's 100% Kirby Smart, tier 1, probably always, but just focus on the SEC component of this. Kirby Smart, tier 1, everyone else below Kirby. With Harbaugh gone, who is it just Ryan Day, tier 1? Would you put Dan Lanning there? Like, if just Big Ten ratings here, we're talking about Big Ten, not nationally. Is Ryan Day kind of by himself, or would you kind of group those two together at the top with Dan Lanning?
I think that if you were to look at their overall resume, Ryan Day would have to stand alone. But if we're talking about kind of current form and how I feel about him, I'd put Lanning Day together. Shit. I mean, they're probably right underneath, but I'd be kind of tempted to put Kirk Ferentz in there. I'm not even joking. I'm just talking about in terms of consistently turn out a good product and a good football team with undermanned resources. Like, Kirk Ferentz is pretty fucking awesome. James Franklin's weird. I mean, Franklin and
I'm not putting Franklin.
No, I was gonna say Franklin and Ferentz probably go a tier, like right underneath something like Lanning and Day. Maybe we're crowning Lanning a little early here. But Franklin's odd. He's confusing in the way that Bill O'Brien is confusing, is that if you look at his resume, he really is pretty fucking spectacular, but there's some Well, actually, he's not like Bill O'Brien, except that they're both kind of confused. But Franklin's resume is pretty damn good. He's got to figure out what to do offensively. Bill O'Brien's what I wanted to talk about, because what do you make of Bill O'Brien? Like Royal Paint says, Will Howard and Bill O'Brien. That's going to be interesting. He basically just had Bryce Young trying to make something out of a play half the time. So here's the thing with Bill O'Brien. You're talking about a cat that has a winning record as an NFL head coach, made the playoffs 4 times, won the division multiple times. When he was OC at Alabama, they averaged 41 points a game and went like 21-4. So, but everybody thinks he sucks.
I know.
Like that's why I say it's confusing, because just on paper, this is an over the moon, knock it out of the park, badass hire. But
when you're teaming up with Ryan Day, who's still one of the best minds in college football too, it's not like Ryan Day is just not going to be involved. Like, it's hard for me to feel like he's going to completely hand over. It's just taking the 100% focus of, okay, OC mindset. Bill O'Brien, you get 70% of it, and I'm going to be 30%. But this is still my offense. This is still my terminology. This is how I want things to run. I just need you to take it over.
I think Bill O'Brien is very good. I think it's a very good hire, and I think that he was a bit scapegoated both in Alabama and New England. I mean, all of a sudden, when Mac Jones isn't throwing to 3 first-rounders going against normal college kids, it's a little harder to squeeze some of that success out. Well, good thing for Bill O'Brien's next quarterback. Ohio State has 5 former 5-stars in the wide receiver room alone. And here's the deal. And Kim says Lanny and Dave won nothing. Well, that's kind of the point. There's nobody left in the Big Ten that has won anything. If your anything is just a natty. But think about being the quarterback, being Will Howard right now. You got no excuse. You're gonna have a top 5 defense in the country. You are going to have one of the best running backs in the entire country. Like I said,
the best running back. You're the best running back room in the country with those two.
Best running back room in the country.
Best running back room.
Top 5 receiver room in the country. Like, you
O-line's a little bit of a question mark still. I think that's the one weakness for this football team. O-line, which was an issue last year. That's going to be I'm not going to say a major problem. I'm just saying, like, if there's a hole in the team, it's going to be offense line. Can that unit gel to get things figured out? But I mean, the offense should be balanced enough where it should be able to force defenses to be a little bit more balanced themselves on that side of the football to allow for the ability to kind of run and pass. So I love the football team. There's not a lot of holes. There really isn't a hole.
Yeah, the O-line may be a bit of a relative hole, but like that defense should allow them to control games without the need to throw 40 to 50 touchdowns.
But they were good. But that defense was good. The same thing last year, though. I mean, it may be better.
I think they're going to be even better. Is what I'm saying. Like, even a step up.
They'll be even better. But like, they were pretty damn good last season. Like, that was impressive.
They were championship good.
They were 100% championship good. Everything was championship good besides the quarterback and offensive line at times.
So yeah, again, so we agree on staff. So we actually think Bill O'Brien's a good hire, because many are.
I think Bill O'Brien. I think it's a really good hire. I think that you alluded to the talent. You brought up just the 5-star receivers. Just in this recruiting cycle alone, between transfer portal kids and kids in the high school rankings, 7 5-stars are now walking through those facilities that weren't about a month ago. 7 more 5-stars. That's
Jesus.
pretty damn good.